Reddit user by the name of BeautifulRose123, at the age of 19, was in through her hours in cosmetology school while taking clients. It was on a regular Friday when she was scheduled for her last client by the name of Tim, who'd never been to the school before. As she checked Tim in, the first thing he said to her was, "I ran all the way here for you. I ran all the way here for you on Wednesday, too, but they said you were busy." She must have thought he was crazy or something, so she just laughed it off. But things got even more weird. Tim was described with these piercing blue eyes, and his skin was something that looked alien-like that was too tight over its face. His appearance alone freaked her out. Then he started talking even more, and this is what she quoted. "I have a twin brother that lives down in Georgia. I went to go live with him for a while, but I had to run away because all the cops kept accusing me of breaking into homes and raping a bunch of women. So I ran all the way to Daytona Beach, Florida. But I couldn't stay there long either because all the police there kept trying to shoot me. So I ended up running all the way back here to town." After that, she was pretty freaked out. So in order to get him to leave, she just cut his hair really fast. And as she was checking him out, the last thing he said to her was, "I'll be back again for you, Beautiful Rose 123. After that point, she told all the staff that if this man comes back again, she will refuse to do service on him. The biggest shock of all was when a local news station released a story about a man that got out of penitentiary after 23 years for raping and murdering a 15-year-old girl while at the age of 15. It was a cold case that went for 16 years until they reopened it and arrested this man. And after seeing the mugshot, it in fact was Tim, who in fact was using a fake name at this point, and started crying. To this day, she still looks over her shoulder and still has nightmares about him. Reddit user TrueFakeAdult had her own experience with a serial rapist. After getting kicked out of her house at the age of 19, stayed with a few friends as she had her own job and her own car. Her friends were nice people, but also weird and had issues with drugs or a criminal past. But one guy was even weirder, by the name of Joey. After coming home from work one day, Joey made a comment about how beautiful she was, so she just shrugged it off and said thanks. As she was making her lunch and cleaning up her mess, she felt like someone was staring at her, who in fact was Joey. He followed her into the kitchen and was just standing in the only doorway just staring at her. She asked him if she could get him anything, but he just shook his head and continued to stare, which at this point made her very uncomfortable. So she just headed straight for her room and locked the door until her roommates got home. When Friday night rolled around, her friends were going to throw a huge party, and she had this gut feeling that Joey would be there. So she decided to invite the most intimidating male person she knew, who was her neighbor and in fact friend Charles, who would in fact protect her in case Joey tried to do anything. While inviting him, she talked to Charles about Joey. What he told her next really scared her. He in fact knew Joey, and that he was on the run from the police for raping a teenage girl the year before, and that he told her to stay far away from him. But things get even more scary. After going home and calling the police and packing her things, when they arrested him, they looked through Joey's phone and found multiple pictures of her on it, Most of them were of her sleeping or in the shower. There were also texts to another person about her and what he and this other person wanted to do to her. To this day, she is forever grateful to her friend Charles because he probably had just saved her life. Reddit user DanicaDarkhand had her own experience back in the 90s while living in Colorado, who was dating the son of Deborah Snyder, who in fact was the girlfriend of murderer Thomas Luther, who was charged with beating, raping, and murdering several women in West Virginia and Colorado. She was in complete shock after finding out who he was and what he had done. Her mother almost had a heart attack, thinking that her own daughter was that close to a monster. To this day, it still gives her the creeps thinking about it. The funny thing is, over 20 years later, her brother is now a correctional officer at the maximum security prison that Tom is housed at. One possible reason is why nothing bad happened to her was because she was dating his girlfriend's son. But one can only wonder, maybe there was another reason.